All right, welcome or welcome back. This is the end of week one. I'm going to post these videos at the end of every week just to discuss what we talked about the prior week and then give you kind of an overview of the upcoming week. So thank you for all your posts. That was exactly what I wanted. That was my expectation, that you would post and share a little bit about yourself and then and kind of get to know your colleagues that you're going to be working with and your peers in this class. Nice to see that most of you are going to have some classroom experience this semester. And again, if you're not, try to reach out to schools in your area, see if there's ways that they'll let you observe a classroom. Tell them you're a UNLV student. Most of the Clark County School District schools are pretty good about that. If you want to come over to Cheyenne and observe me and my colleagues, you're more than welcome to. Just give us a heads up. And I'm hoping that then, as you saw or you're going to see in chapter one, getting to know all the things that you're going to have to face in a classroom, from cultural differences to the different types of behaviors you're going to see. So at least if you don't see great classroom techniques and management strategies in the classroom, at least you start to see some typical behaviors. And once you're aware of that, then as you're going to see this week, we're going to talk heavily about this, this final assessment or this culminating project at the end of the semester, the classroom management model or the personal philosophy model. Hopefully by being in the classroom a lot, you're going to start to see some of these typical behaviors, and then you're going to start to develop ideas about how to address them. And then hopefully support those ideas with sound research is what we're going to be focusing on for the rest of the semester after this week as we look more at some of the theories. So I wrote myself some notes, so if you see me looking down, I'm just hitting my notes. So this week's goals are twofold. We're going to talk about what does a typical classroom look like today. What are some of the things you're going to see in today's classroom? And that's what chapter one's really all about, giving you a quick overview of today's classroom in the 21st century, giving you an overview of what classroom management is, the definition of classroom management. So once you do that reading, I also posted a PowerPoint that I further elaborated, if I could talk this morning, on some of those principles. You don't have to watch the PowerPoint. Really, that's for you, for those of you that want to just get some further ideas about the chapter. Hopefully they're helpful. Please give me feedback if they're not, or if you need more. I'm just basically accommodating your needs as we go throughout this course. But I know that when I was a student, especially as an undergrad, and still even now as a doctoral student, it's nice for me to have a little bit of a focus before I read. Otherwise, it just seems like I'm reading 19 pages of words and trying to really grasp and understand the concepts that are supposed to be important. So I want to give you a little bit of a focus as you're reading that first chapter and that second chapter this week, in the form of a question, something that I want you to be thinking about as you're reading. So my focus question for chapter one is, what are your preconceptions of managing a classroom? So before you start reading, I just want you to think, what do I know about classroom management? What do I think about classroom management? And then read through the chapter. And at the end of the chapter, I ask the question, what does Manning and Buchier offer for you or force you to consider that you do not, wow, I should have wrote that question better. What do the authors force you to consider that you haven't already considered? And I made that part of our discussion question this week. So what are some things in this chapter that you haven't thought about when it comes to management? And I'm hoping that you'll discuss that and get some of those thoughts out. When we get to chapter two, now we're talking about the uniqueness of, I guess, our generation of classrooms. It used to be students would misbehave by talking when they're not supposed to, moving around the classroom when they're not supposed to, just little tiny, in my opinion, minor behaviors. Now we're looking at school shootings a lot. We're looking at trying to make sure that we prevent those types of huge misbehaviors from happening. Bullying in the classroom, school violence, like fights after school and before school or during school. Those types of things we want to prevent. And that's unique, I think, to our setting this day and age, that we're trying to now have this movement of what's called the Safe Schools movement. And that's what chapter 2 is about. So as you're reading about that, I just want you to consider, what can you do as an educator? Where's your influence in establishing a safe classroom and a safe school? There's a lot of things that you won't be able to influence necessarily at the school level. There may be a few things. There's committees and things that you can be involved in at your school. But for the most part, I just want you to consider, what can I do in my classroom to ensure safe schools? How can I contribute in my classroom to a safe school and a safe classroom environment? So those are my two focus questions as you read. Those are the things I really want you to focus in on. And hopefully that'll help your reading go a little bit smoother so you don't feel lost in all that information. Now, this week is our first week of grades. So as you're posting your discussions, again, the expectation is read this. That's why I'm posting on Saturdays. I feel like if I post on Mondays, like former professors have Mondays at 5, it just gives you so little amount of time to know what your expectations are before you have to meet that Wednesday midnight deadline. So I'm posting on Saturday, so you have a few extra days to read the chapters and to think about what you want to discuss. So before Wednesday at midnight, discuss your initial thoughts to the discussion questions that I'm going to post and I'm going to talk about in this video as well. And then by Friday, make sure you have responded to at least 2. If you want to go more, go for it. There's no extra credit, but please go for it. If you really want to get more out of this class, it's up to what you do. And the more you discuss, the more you make connections, the more you really delve into this content, I guarantee the more you're going to get out of it. So I had responded to everybody this week, and I'm probably not going to do that in the weeks coming. I'm just going to be involved in the discussion. So I may see an interesting point and I'll throw in my advice. I don't want you to feel like, well, he didn't respond to me and all of a sudden our self-esteem is lower. It is nothing that your post wasn't worthy and so I only posted the ones that are worthy. I'm just going to be an active member of the discussion. And at the end of the week, I'll do this wrap-up video and talk about what I thought were the important ideas from our discussion. So I'm going to be more an active participant, but grading-wise, what I'm looking for is your Wednesday post, your Friday posts, or Friday posts, I should say. And then I want to also see that you're supporting your ideas with the text. You're going to see this a lot with the Common Core, this movement of textual evidence. We've done that at the higher ed level forever. Now we're expecting our students in the secondary level to begin to develop that mindset of supporting our ideas with the ideas of others, analysis type of thinking and synthesis type of thinking. So with that comes this idea that I think Heather had commented on, the idea that we need to understand APA a little bit better. And please don't be afraid to throw out, I don't understand this, I need help with this. And APA is something, again, we use in the educational world. You may be used to MLA for all you English teachers out there. But we're going to do APA. And so this week I'm going to model with my post what an APA in-text citation looks like. I'm also going to post an APA tutorial that you can look at that talks a little bit about how to format your paper and some of the basics to APA, which is mostly just the references, the in-text citations, how to format your paper. And that's really all I'm going to expect. I'm not going to expect much more than that in terms of formatting. So I'm going to model that in the discussion. When I post, I'm going to post my ideas supported with the ideas of the book, and I will cite the book so that you can see what APA citations look like, and hopefully that will help you in your post. If at any time I feel like the posts aren't worthy of what the rigor of this class should be, I will send you a private email and let you know, hey, I need a little bit more from your discussion. Try this, give me a phone call if you need some extra advice. Using kind of a classroom management strategy, right? You want to, in the classroom, you want to always praise in public. Always tell everybody you're doing a great job, point out specific positive examples publicly, but privately, you want to reprove in private. Don't single anybody out. So I'm going to try to do and practice that same management strategy in this class. So hopefully that will be helpful for you, and that will ensure your success, that you have a great first week of grades. I also posted some videos and some links about bullying. There's something you need to be aware of in Nevada if you aren't already. Nevada has revised its bullying statute and anti-bullying statute, and so there's some new laws and additions to those laws in place. So I posted a video for you to look at and some documents to read. In a nutshell, basically, we just have higher accountability when it comes to reporting bullying as educators, and also a little bit more discipline if we neglect to do so. So I want you to look at some of those documents. I want you to get familiar with that, especially for those of you that are substitute teaching. That's definitely going to be a big portion of your responsibility to ensure that you're reporting bullying in a timely manner and you understand what it means to report bullying. And so tackle those documents, and we'll maybe have a discussion about that throughout the course in the next week. I'm giving you a lot this first week. I'm going to give you a matrix of a tool to track some of these theories. We're talking about a personal management model. That means at the end of this semester, after you've delved into the theories and the research and experiences and have done all these things, you should have a pretty good idea about If a student is misbehaving in my class, my personal philosophy is I will do this. So let me give you an example. Some teachers are, if a student's misbehaving in my class, I'm throwing them out of class, right? And maybe not that extreme, but I take a very authoritative standpoint, and sometimes that works. Other teachers may go through progressive discipline. Well, I'm going to give them a warning, and then I'm going to talk to them after class, and then I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. Some teachers allow for a little bit of talking depending on the situation. So that's what I mean by philosophy. What's your philosophy of handling these behaviors? How are you going to go about handling these behaviors? And you want to support that thinking with research. That way you know that your thinking is sound, and you're not just coming up with something on a whim hoping that it's going to work. And that's that concept of best practices in education. So think about that this week. Think about how your philosophy is starting to develop, what it is already, and maybe it'll change throughout the semester, and that's okay. It's still changing for me in my later parts of my career here, and that's totally fine. So I'm going to give you this tool to keep track of all these theories. That way at the end it'll be a lot easier for you to synthesize your model, because you would have been taking notes on all these theories. I think that's it for the most part in terms of this week and what you need to look forward to. Let me go ahead and just talk a little bit about these discussion questions. So again, the first thing I want you to be discussing in the forum this week is, what do the authors force you to consider that you did not priorly consider, or consider prior to reading chapter 1? Manning and Buchier talk a little bit about management strategies should be connected to instructional practices. I want you to interpret that. What does that mean? From the book, does the book imply what it means? Is it explicit about what it means? Do you have some background experiences in the classroom that would help you better understand that concept that instruction is tied closely to management? I also have a case study I want you to consider that happened to me just this week. And I put this case study up just so that you can start considering your own philosophy. How would you handle this type of situation? And then finally, in terms of chapter 2, just be thinking about how are you going to ensure a safe school, and support some of your thinking with what the text talked about, and maybe some outside readings that the text suggests. So other than that, I'm looking forward to a great week. Thank you for a great first week. So glad to meet all of you. As always, if there are questions, please email me, please call me. Please let me know how I can best meet your needs. I want this to be a great course for you, because most importantly, I want you to leave feeling like I'm ready to manage a classroom, and I have no fear in that regard. I'm not nervous. I know what I need to do to ensure that students are basically behaving in a way that would produce solid learning in the classroom. Because if that doesn't happen, we don't go very far from there. So management's that foundational piece before we get into even some of the other stuff. So again, good to meet you. Have a great week, and I will see you face to face next week.